Hey there, people. While I'm brushing the teeth of this AT-Rex, the most fearsome dinosaur of the Galactic Empire, I want to take a moment to say thank you. I have no idea how my Hyrule video exploded the way it did, but I was truly appreciative of the response that it got. So, thank you for your support, thank you for your constructive criticism, and thank you for your fantastic suggestions of future builds that I could make. Some of your suggestions jumped to the top of my list, and I'm so excited to keep making more things. One commenter that stood out to me said that they were getting in on the ground floor of this channel, and I really liked that idea of this is just the beginning, and we're going to see how this channel can grow and change and what this looks like a year or a couple years from now. The awesome, nerdy creations we can make. So, stick around. Anyways, this apex predator is the masterpiece created by a designer named Quentin and can be found on my mini factory. I reached out to him at the start of this project because this print and the pterodactyl X-Wing that you'll see soon are just the absolute best. This is why 3D printers exist, so that we can make literally anything. And with that much potential, yes, let's make Jurassic Park Star Wars. Because we can. I put a link to Quentin's work in the description and strongly encourage you to check out his stuff. After assembling the model, I had a few mistakes that I corrected using a 3D printing pen. After this, I started priming it gray with my airbrush and started doing lighter and lighter shades going down from the top. This is called the zenithal lighting, and it creates an effect of sunlight hitting the top parts that are exposed of the AT-Rex. As a result, too, of these lighter and lighter shades of gray to white, what I end up with is a gradient, which is particularly helpful for a colorblind guy like me. This model is essentially just a bunch of gray things on a snow-white battlefield. So I'm doing this diorama on easy, apparently, in terms of color. We will be creating a mashup between my absolute favorite movie, Jurassic Park, and the best battle in the best Star Wars movie, the Battle of Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back. I decided to start with the model of the AT-Rex to give me a sense of the size that I'll need to create everything else. When you first get a 3D model like this, it's common that it comes in the form of like 20 different puzzle pieces that you need to assemble yourself together. So I didn't have a clear sense when I first downloaded it just how big the model was going to end up being. Once I put it on my foam board, I realized it was way bigger than expected. But that's a good problem to fall into because we can just make a bigger model. Got out the larger foam board, started scaling things appropriately, and you can see I'm cutting other foam board to shape so that the rebel base will be elevated a little bit and that there'll be trenches along the snowy battlefield. I take this piece of foam and start carving away at it with my knife because this is going to form the rebel base mountain. I want it to look less like a rectangular prism and more like a natural rocky surface. Here you can see I'm hot gluing different pieces of foam. This will eventually form the trenches and hill leading up to the rebel base. I plastered over the rocky outcropping first because I need to be able to paint this before putting snow on top of it. You can see though that I'm doing a small experiment at the bottom where I'm doing plaster and cornstarch to see if this is going to create the desired snow effect I'm going for. More on that later. But for right now, I'm working on the tiny prints. The shield generators and the Jurassic Park gate were found online. You can find links in the description. The turrets are actually a mix of things from my toolbox, like washers and nails. I had assumed that I was gonna hate the result of that, and I didn't film the process. But afterwards, I was like, no, this is okay. This looks pretty authentic to the movie. So I went with it. After painting these up, I hit the AT Rex with some dry brushing, and I also did the same for the rocky outcropping. Dry brushing here is helping to bring out the textures by hitting it with a lighter shade of gray. Gluing down the Jurassic Park gates, you can see that I've drawn up the tiniest Jurassic Hoth sign that I put across there, painted it blue, and I started gluing down the different turrets and shield generator. Along the back wall, I have the electrical fencing from Jurassic Park, and that will eventually have wires going across it, broken through by the AT Rex. The fencing is made just from trim that I had lying around in my workshop, and I drilled some holes into it so I can feed the wiring in later. The AT Rex got a couple pieces of foam glued to its feet. I needed to give it just a bit of elevation so that when I add in the snow, its feet are going to be stomping on top of the snow and not getting too buried in it. This brings us to the Pterodactyl X-Wing, another model that I am so crazy excited about making. I decided that this is going to take the place of the Snow Speeder, with a cable wrapped around the AT Rex leg connecting to the X-Wing that's trying to trip it. Now, canonically, that doesn't make sense. That's not the right vehicle for the movie, but in my Star Wars Jurassic Park universe, this is what happened. Given the choice between a movie-accurate snow speeder and a dinosaur X-Wing, well, the choice was already made for me. So I painted it up, but along the way, this doubt crept in that this was wrong. And as soon as you put it side by side with the AT Rex, it's obvious that the size does not work. This model just printed way too big. I completely miscalculated the scale of it. It actually dwarfs the AT Rex, which is the opposite of what I'm going for. The AT Rex is the centerpiece. It should be the most fearsome, the largest, but now it looks small by comparison. So I reprinted the X-Wing, making it 1/3 the size of my first print, and it felt a whole lot better about the size comparison now. I painted it up, adding some details in, such as R2-D2 in the cockpit. And with all the models ready, it's time to start the snow. So, fun fact. While searching the internet to try to find the best snow, I stumbled upon a post that suggested that the original Hoth diorama that they used to film Empire Strikes Back used cornstarch. Naturally, that's what I'm going with then. To make this dinosaur Star Wars mashup the most authentically movie-accurate design, I plastered over first, which allows all of those sharp edges from the foam to be smoothed out and become hills. And then I patted down cornstarch over it, which naturally adhered to the plaster. This was a long process, long enough that the plaster starts drying as you're using it. So instead of feeling better about it and more confident as I went, I only felt more stressed and frantic as it went on. It felt like a race against time and was quite the mess while I was doing it too. All about the end result though. The end result, this looks like an awesome snowy landscape that I'm satisfied with. With that in place, I fed some wiring through my electrical fence posts. I tried to bend it into a form that looked damaged, and I have this broken off piece still kind of connected hanging on to show that the T-Rex broke through. I attach a couple other prints that I did off camera. One of the Jurassic Park signposts that Dennis Nedry crashes into. It's one of the tiniest things I've painted, but one of my favorite details of the build. Speaking of tiny things, here is a tiny little Jurassic Park car that is smaller than the AT-Rex foot, trying desperately to go faster. Must go faster. The last part of this build was attaching the pterodactyl X-Wing. You can see that I used more of the wiring, wrapped it around the AT-Rex foot, and glued the X-Wing to it in a way that suggested it was airborne in leading the wire to hopefully trip up this fearsome beast. And now that it has all the elements I was going for and I'm feeling over the top happy with how it came out, it's time to show off the final product. This is one of my favorite works so far, and the perfect mashup of two things that I love. It got me thinking a whole lot about what this Star Wars Jurassic Park universe would look like. Are there tiny dinosaurs inside the AT-Rex piloting it? Or are there still people in there? Like, are they Stormtroopers or are they Stormraptors? I'm also left wondering what I'm going to do with this pterodactyl X-Wing that was too large for this model. I'm going to have to work it in somewhere. Perhaps Yoda's going to lift it out of a dinosaur-infested swamp in Dagobah. Perhaps it's going to do the Death Star trench run, and I'm going to have to figure out what dinosaurs a TIE fighter would be and the Millennium Falcon would be. I don't know. I've got a lot to think about. So, stick around with this channel, and we'll be making some more awesome things soon. I'll see ya.